Welcome to Mamahood After Trauma. I'm Emily, your host. Here we share strategies and inspiration to help you heal and grow with kindness and understanding. Let's dive in. This is Mamahood After Trauma. Before we dive in, I want to introduce you to something brand new. If you love the podcast and want a deeper connection to your healing, check out the monthly Peace Pack, a small trauma-informed tool delivered each month straight to your mailbox to help you find calm in the everyday. You'll also get access to our private Patreon community where mamas like you can share, support, and learn together. Sign up with the link in the show notes. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Mamahood After Trauma podcast. I am thrilled that you have taken some time out of your busy mama schedule to tune in and listen to our conversation today. Today, we are joined by Angela Caldwell. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation. So let's get started by having you share a bit of who you are and how you came to work in the space.
Well, I don't know if you have enough time. I need 10 days for that. All right, I'll try to do it quickly. I grew up in Texas. I moved to California for college and I loved it so much I stayed. Believe it or not, I moved out here because I wanted to go to film school and be in the movies like most of the people that move out here, and that was a humongous failure. I am not cut out for that business. I don't have the chops for it. I don't have the patience for it. But what I did notice is while I was working on set, it looked like I was pretty good with people. And I was pretty good at recognizing human suffering. I was really interested in human suffering. So I switched gears and I went to psychology school and I became a licensed marriage and family therapist because I was particularly interested in family dynamics. How experiences from the past or unresolved conflict or trauma sort of manifests in the way we interact with each other as family members. And so I've been doing that now for, a couple of decades, and I love it.
So what are a couple of the biggest ways that you see in your practice that trauma impacts family dynamics?
Yes.
That's a loaded question.
It's a big question. I love it though. I love that question. So I think I want to speak to a couple of different things. Trauma, your listeners probably are experts on this. They know that trauma manifests in multiple ways across multiple areas. But the two that stand out to me, the ones that I see over and over again in my practice, are this. I'm going to put this in the umbrella category called overparenting, and then there's this other thing that I see that is tiptoeing, and so those are two. I'm hesitant to say errors or mistakes, but maybe they are mistakes. So those are two places that I see that can cause problems. The first one is probably not surprising to you. And it's this, those of us that experience trauma, like real deal hardcore trauma, we are members of a very terrible, terrible club. It's the worst membership card you could have. And we go through a really, really terrible thing. And if we're lucky, we get through it with a few scars. If we're unlucky, which is most of us, we get through it. Sometimes we don't get through it. We're still bleeding, 10, 20 years later. I've come to learn that many of us don't even realize that we went through trauma until we're an adult. And then we look back and we go, oh, really? Is that what trauma is? That's a trauma? And our therapist or our clergy member or our parent or a good friend is like, are you crazy? That's a huge trauma, right? That is not normal. Those have various impacts on our bodies, on our relationships out in the world. But they come with a gift. And I had a 6-year-old client several years ago, and something terrible had happened to her. And I was helping her kind of try to find the right place to put it in her mind. I was helping her tell the story of it. And I told her, and of course, I'm speaking to a 6-year-old, so I was, using hopefully age appropriate language, but I was telling her, bad things when they happen to us, especially when we're little, they give us a present. They give us these special superpower eyeballs. And she was like, what? And I was like, well, people who go through really bad things, they have this extra set of eyeballs that other people don't have. And those eyeballs, what they can do when you're wearing them is you can walk into a room and you can spot somebody else who has a broken heart. It's amazing. And what I'm trying to tell her, of course, is that the hidden gift of trauma is insight. And those of us who are members of this terrible club, surely your listeners have experienced this. You can walk into a room, you can show up at a family gathering, and you can see the suffering right away. You can see which one is suffering and how they're suffering. And we are gifted with compassion and insight and understanding of that. That gift comes with a curse. And the curse of that is when we become mothers. We are bound and determined that our children never get those special eyeballs, that our children never have to experience what we experienced, even though it comes with these special gifts and talents and skills afterwards. We don't want them to ever feel what we felt. We don't want them to ever smell what we smelled and taste what we tasted and remember what we remember, right? And so what these parents tend to do, and if you think about it, it's perfectly understandable, in an effort to protect their children, they accidentally put them in straitjackets in padded cells, right? Yep. And you see this over and over again, and what shows up in my therapy room over and over again is this kid who's now screaming and shouting and hates the mom or is acting out in another way or is behaving in such a way the parents are saying, what is going on? This is not the child that I raised. Well, what's happening is they're trying to break out of the straitjacket. And I try to help parents see, well, what you accidentally did here, and I understand, was you tried to protect your child. That you overprotected, overcompensated. Now you have a kid who's trying to get out of the cell. Now, Emily, I have like 10 more minutes on this, so you interrupt me if you want to. If you have a question or different direction.
No, you're good. You're good.
The other thing that the child, so one presentation can be kind of this kid. Maybe they're a teenager by this point. Maybe they're even a young adult child at this point, and they show up and they have so much anger toward the parent for not letting them go out in the world and scrape their knee, go out in the world and experience social failures, go out in the world and experience something that might actually cause them a little harm, right? That they carry a lot of anger and rage toward the parent. And so sometimes I am working on healing that. The other presentation can be when we overparent and overprotect our kids. What we inadvertently do is rob them of an ability to build their own resilience, right? Yeah. That the only way we build resilience, believe it or not, is to have bad, harmful things happen. Hopefully not trauma, right?
Yeah.
But falling and scraping your knee or getting turned down, from a college, or failing a test, or not getting invited to a party, or busting a tooth on the ice rink, or, all of these things, these are actually how we build resilience, because what the brain does, it goes, wow, that's a terrible thing. And wow, I'm okay. And the more repeated experiences we have of that, the more resilient we are. When we overparent and we take away those opportunities, what sits on my couch is a fragile snowflake of a kid who melts at the sign of a syllabus in college, who collapses when they're not invited to the birthday party, who has no resilience at all.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is, I think, the avoidant, I'm not going to deal with the issues at hand because I'm stuck in survival mode and my nervous system can't handle the stimulation from the temper tantrum or
Mm-hmm.
the teenage hormones or whatever stage you may be at.
Mm-hmm.
And so both of those, the underparenting
Absolutely.
and the overparenting, both have consequences and both are run by your nervous system trying to do its best.
Yes, yes. I like underparenting better than tiptoeing. When I think of this second thing that I tend to see in my office and how trauma and really unresolved trauma kind of shows up
Yeah.
in family relationships. What I was calling tiptoeing, I like your word underparenting, is this kind of like, I don't know what's going on right now. I'm just going to be over here. I'm just going to look over
Yeah.
here and consume myself with this task, or I don't know what's happening. And you kind of see the elbows shrink into the sides and the shoulders go up to the ears. And there's kind of almost like a full-on musculature contraction, right? That
Yeah.
us to kind of tiptoe through this next moment and just hope it goes away. And it reminds me of when my 5-year-old covered her eyes and her ears and said, maybe if I do this, the lion won't see me. Right? So it kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, both of those for sure are manifestations of unresolved trauma of a family member who hasn't confronted and told the story of and put a happy ending to it.
Yeah, and I think it's also really important to point out the fact that those events, those horrible events that you're trying to, with the best intentions, protect your child from, are only traumatic if your child has to go through them alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you said that, because in my field, we draw a distinction between experiencing trauma and
Yes.
being traumatized. When you are traumatized, sometimes you warrant a diagnosis of PTSD or some kind of post-traumatic diagnosis. That merits a certain kind of treatment in therapy, right? But not everyone who experiences trauma becomes traumatized. And
Absolutely.
in my field, we say you need two ingredients, and you just named the first one, Emily. If
Yeah.
it's an unfortunate reality that we all have to face, but the likelihood that we're all going to experience trauma at some point in our lives is pretty high. In fact, we're probably going to experience trauma more than once or twice, right?
Yeah.
But not all of us are going to be traumatized. And those of us who don't become traumatized had two things. And the first was a caring other who said, oh my God, what happened? Tell me everything. Oh my gosh, come into my arms. Let me hold you and rock you through this moment. Oh my gosh, tell me, that I believe you. I can't believe it that this happened. I'm so heartbroken for you. All of the supportive things. That's the first ingredient. And the second ingredient is the storytelling. Being able to tell the story. This was first, this was second, this was third, and then this. And being able to tell the story over and over again as many times as you need to, so that your brain, your memory, can slot it into the appropriate place and time in the timeline, and you get to put it away and pull it out when you need it, but you know where it is in the timeline. You know it happened then, it's not now. You know it happened there, not here. You know that happened to me, not her, right? That it's appropriately slotted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I think it's really important for me, for you, if you are listening, to understand that if you are in the overparenting, if you can identify with the overparenting
Group.
that we have been talking about, know that you are not broken. It is your nervous system's way of protecting not just your child, but your inner child. And noticing that, building your awareness of that. If you're sitting there thinking, oh crap, that's me, that's awareness.
Mhm.
Congratulations.
Mhm.
And you can heal from there.
Mhm.
You can't change what you don't acknowledge. And
100%.
you just acknowledged it. So
Mhm.
now you can work on mending it.
Mhm. 100%.
And so what advice
Mm.
do you have for that group, that listener who resonates with the overparenter?
I am probably going to give the same piece of advice, whether you identify with the first group or the second group, and you're asking a therapist for advice. Therapy, 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 therapy. Right. So here's where I fall there. If you're recognizing in yourself, like, oh my gosh, that's totally me. That's what I'm doing. It suggests that your trauma is not resolved. It is living inside of
Mhm.
you. It's floating around. It does not have a safe address. It doesn't know where it's supposed to go. And because of that, because it hasn't been given a timestamp, your brain, your nervous system thinks it's happening all the time, right now, everywhere you go.
Yeah.
There are lots and lots of beautiful therapies that have been designed precisely to treat that. And for your listeners that can't afford therapy or it's not covered or it's not in their area or something like that, well, I'm happy to say we're in 2025 and you have online options there. Apple has created apps now. You can do self-help PTSD apps and workbooks. There's all kinds of ways. Therapy is, of course, I'm a therapist. I'm going to say that's the best answer, but it's not the only answer. And if you can find a way to treat your
Mhm.
trauma, you are less likely to over or underparent because you will be
Mhm.
a woman who recognizes when it happened, where it happened, that it happened to you, not someone else, and you'll be able to see your child as their own person having their own life experience.
Absolutely. And that ability to see the distinction where the boundary is huge.
Yeah.
In
It's
my own personal experience, it was life-changing for me.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I'm so happy that I was able to do it when my daughter was a newborn and not later on, because I can see how it would have complicated things.
Yes, and not in an irreparable way. That's what family
Yes.
therapists do. Even
Yeah.
Emily, God bless you for having that realization and healing yourself when you had a little baby. But even if
Even
your child had grown
yeah.
up, that is healable. That is a treatable
Yeah.
healing. I know as parents, oh my gosh, we all get so obsessed with, oh my gosh, I screwed up my kid in this way, and I did this wrong and I did that wrong. Yeah, and you know what? We can fix almost all those things in family therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For me it made adapting to motherhood easier
That's
in
wonderful.
my case.
That's wonderful to hear.
And so what are one or two action steps
Mm.
that our listener can take with them today to further them on their journey?
I love this. I am a big fan of reflection. And
Me
so
too.
I would encourage your listeners to find a moment, stop what you're doing, pause, hit the pause button on your life and take a piece of paper or a journal or your phone or wherever you like to do this. And I would like them to reflect, to write, to journal, write a letter to themselves from their traumatized child place. So what I mean by that is my
Mhm.
traumatized self is saying, dear mother Angela,
Mhm.
I think I want you to know these things. And then I would have them
Mhm.
write a letter about the things that their traumatized inner child wants them to know now. The second action step would be, I think, more socially focused. So to turn to family members or trusted friends or therapist, clergy, yoga instructor, I don't really care, whoever you identify as your caring community, actually collect some feedback. Take a poll.
Mhm.
Ask for honesty from those that you trust and those that you love and say, hey, I listened to this conversation today and I'm wondering, do you see me as an overparent or an underparent? Do you see me making either one of these mistakes? And if your consensus is, yeah, okay, sometimes I do think you overparent or I do think you underparent or tiptoe, that's a signal. Take that seriously. It's a signal that you probably have some unfinished work that is waiting for your attention.
Yeah, and that unfinished work is an opportunity. It's
a beautiful opportunity. It's a growth opportunity. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Angela. It was a lovely conversation. How can our listeners connect with you further if they'd like to do so?
Oh, thank you so much. I love talking about this stuff, so I appreciate the opportunity. Everything about me is on my website. I run the Caldwell Family Institute. That's CALD, not COLD, the Caldwell Family Institute. That's CaldwellFamilyInstitute.com. It's where you can find my Instagram handle. You can follow me on Instagram. It's where my email and my phone number is, and also on the website is more information about what we do.
Awesome. Well, I will put a link to your website in the show notes. So if you are someone who would like to connect with Angela further, you can just scroll down a little bit and click on that live link, and you will be well on your way to connecting. Thanks again, Angela. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Mamahood After Trauma. If today's episode resonated with you, make sure to grab your Unlocking Peace guide from the link in the show notes to start your healing journey with practical tools. Remember, Mama, you're not alone in this. Together, we're mending the past so mamas can mama in peace. See you next time.